Fantastic. All right. In your own virtual space, raise your hands if you have seen or heard about this instrument before. Quite a few. Very good. Very good. Do we know what part of India does it comes from? We do. Okay. I am seeing Neil raising his hand. Neil, can you unmute yourself and tell me what part of India do you think Sarangi comes from?
Northern India.
What part of Northern India, my friend?
New Delhi.
Yeah, close enough. Very good. Yeah, that's fantastic. What made you say New Delhi, Neil?
Because it's kind of the capital, so it's basically where everything happens.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, good. Who else? Can anyone else tell me where the Sarangi in North India comes from? Amit Bhai, can you see who else is raising their hands? Okay, let me stop sharing and put it on gallery. Nobody else, I guess. Okay, well, there is no right or wrong answer. The reason is Sarangi has a lot of different versions which are kind of spaced out in this entire region of the map I have shaded. Can you see this? Can everyone see this map? Good. Okay. So this is predominantly where Sarangi comes from. So you have folk versions of the Sarangi in Rajasthan. This is where Rajasthan is, where my cursor is. You have folk version of Sarangi in a lot of states which are in present Pakistan now. You have version of Sarangi in Kashmir, in Nepal, even in Bengal. You would be surprised to know that Sarangi has traveled so far away, even in Bengal. And in fact, research tells us that Sarangi was present in the early 16th and 17th century in Mysore court as well, which is down south. Okay, that's too much of historical information for you guys. Sarangi. Please say that word in your own virtual space after the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. Sarangi. Sarangi. Very good. Okay. Well, Sarangi comes from a Hindi word, Sarangi. Sa meaning 100. Okay, the number 100, the numeric number 100. Rangi means colors. Ooh, colors. Sarangi, colors. An instrument with 100 colors. What would that mean? Colors? Am I gonna be painting something with it? That's quite weird, isn't it? Right? Sahaj, do you have a thought?
It's a Tej.
Tej, sorry, I'm sorry. The screen is so far away from me, I can't really read. So I apologize in advance if I pronounce your name incorrectly. Okay, Satej, go ahead and answer.
So what they mean by 100 colors is, like basically the instrument sounds so good, like it's beautiful sounding.
Yes, so beautiful meaning, beauty has a lot of variety,
Like,
right? Yeah, so tell me more, what else? Beautiful sounding and that's very good. I said your answer is very good. Okay, Anirudh is getting restless to answer. Come on, Anirudh, unmute yourself. Thank you, Satej.
The tunes of the music.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like another word for colors, but it doesn't mean like you paint it. It means like the tunes of the music that you like play with the strings.
Yeah. What about the tunes of the music? You can play a lot of different kinds of tunes, maybe hundreds of tunes. So colors here are used as a metaphor for melodies. So if I were to give you an example, after stopping to share my screen, I can actually play a happy tune on the instrument, and that will sound something like this. That sounds happy enough, doesn't it? right? Then I can also play some sad tunes. Ooh, sadness. So these are just two basic emotions, and there are many. There's so many that I mean, we would just kind of sit all night here and keep discussing them. So I would limit myself for now for only two basic emotions. And you guys are all learning North Indian music yourself, aren't you guys? Right? Do you guys agree with me? Is that the discipline you're working on? Yeah, North Indian music. Do you know North Indian music has an indigenous and Indian terminology for it? What is North Indian music called in Hindi? Don't say classical music. I'll be very, very, very angry with you. Who can tell me what? Sorry? Yes, who was that?
Yeah, say your name and just talk, okay, guys? Say your name and then say it. Go ahead, Anvi. Go ahead.
Is it Shastriya Sangeet?
Yes, very good. Yeah, Shastri Sangeet. Okay, now you can mute yourself because I'm hearing a delay or a feedback of my own voice. Thank you. Well, Shastra means Shastra means old canonical books, historical books, and that's where our music is coming from, right? Another term which is very highly used in academia is Hindustani music. It comes from the word Hindustan. Can we all say it without unmuting ourselves? Hindustani music? Yes, that's what we are practicing. We are all students of Hindustani music. However, you guys are students of tabla. So your discipline, your subject is lay. We know what lay is, right? Yes, we do know what lay is. However, my discipline is melody. And melodies are perceived or termed as raga. Have you heard that term before? Raga. Who has heard that term before? Om, unmute yourself. What do you know about rag?
I don't know much about it, but I have heard it before.
Okay.
It's basically like a type of a Hindustani music, which
Very
is
good.
like you would say very like melody.
Melody, exactly. These are structured melody. Can you name a Hindustani rag to me, Om? If you remember any rag.
I don't actually remember any.
That's fine. Who else can? Satej, go ahead. And I pronounce your name correctly this time. Ooh.
What is Santur?
What? What was that? Santur. That's not a rag. Come on, Satej. Santur is not a rag. Who else can name a rag? Neil.
Like a tal. So like jap
Tal is not a rag. No, tal is our rhythmic cycle. We're talking about melodies here, guys. Who else can do better? Nitin.
Malhar.
Sorry?
Malhar.
Malhar. Yes. Malhar, the rag of rain, the rag of clouds, the rag of rainy seasons. And unlike New England here, we in India, we love rain. We celebrate it. And we have such beautiful songs on rain. For example, there is a rag called Gaur Malhar. And this is how it sounds like. And you're very lucky. I just remembered a tarana in this rag, and I'm going to switch on my electronic tabla through an app and play the tarana for you. So that is the rag of rainy season. Interestingly, Sarangi is the only instrument in Hindustani music which, in spite of being an instrument, practices all vocal music. What does that mean? Well, that means that every melody I'm playing on Sarangi will have lyrics. It is coming from vocal repertoire. So for example, this particular composition I just played with you also has lyrics. And it has lyrics which are very similar to the tabla repertoire you practice. Notice how that sounds like. Tana nadir dir dani dana ta dani dani tana nadir dir dani dana ta dani dani tana nadir dir dani din tana ta dani tom din tana na 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 toze tana na 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 tom dir dir tir dani yali yala yala. So, what do you guys think? Was I able to play the Sarangi like I was singing? Yeah, do you guys agree? Good. And you know how that's happening? There is a very interesting nuance. There is a very interesting technique involved, which is probably so unique to the Sarangi that it doesn't happen in any other North Indian instrument. And that is that when I press the string from my left hand, and as you can see, by the way, I'm using a bow, so it's a bowed instrument. You can see that, right? Yeah? Good. Okay. So with the left hand, when I'm pressing down the string, I'm not really pressing down it. Ooh. What am I doing then? Well, I am actually sliding it with my knuckles. So I'm actually using my nails. So the string is on my nails here. Wow. And that particular nuance, that feature, gives it a vocal-like sound. So for example, ne zaga ma da ni pa. Renezama Pagamada Danire Saranisa Gundalari Malana Pulon Gazera Gundalari Malana Pul. This is a traditional bandish which is sung in musician's house when there is a wedding going on. Gundalari Malana Pulon Gazera. आज बंदा बनरी को मुबारक गुंदलार माला न फूलों का सहरा Sounds very close to the human voice, doesn't it? It sounds almost like someone is singing, right? I noticed a lot of people were raising their hands out of curiosity. People had a lot of questions, a lot of thoughts to share. Okay, who wants to come first? Satej, I can see you. Go ahead.
So I realized Sarangi is kind of like a violin with that bow.
Sarangi is, yeah, you can say that it's from the same bowing family. However, it's much bigger than the violin, but you're correct. It's from the same bowing family. Yes, who else? Anirudh, go ahead and unmute yourself.
I was gonna say that, what was those, like, I have like two questions. What is the ones that are on your like hand? Is that powder?
Where? On my left hand or right hand?
No, the left hand.
Yeah, I use the same powder as you guys are using to avoid friction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My second question is, how do you like slide your fingers, and how do you know like which note you're supposed to go to?
Very good question, Anirudh, and thank you for bringing that to light. Well, it takes some time. It takes some guidance. It's almost like, how do you know where titte sounds? How do you know where nana sounds? How do you know dha comes? How do you know dha tirikite tak, and all those kaidas and complicated tabla syllables you use, right? It takes, Amit ji has sat down with you and paid so much of attention and worked so hard in order for you to realize that how does the sound work, right? So similarly, my guru has sat with me. You know, I have sat with my guru, my grandfather, who has taught me this instrument, almost like an oral language being passed on to me. So children in our family are initiated into these kind of disciplines. And the idea here is to not just learn the instrument, but learn it like an oral language being passed on to you, and then become a performer. So how my guru would sit down in front of me, and Amit ji actually mentioned a very interesting thing, that I am the 8th generation of my family who's taking the tradition forward. 8th generation. Wow, that's a long line, right? So I actually grew up in a house of musicians, almost like you can imagine that I was growing up in a conservatory, in a music conservatory, where everyone was musicians around me. And then my grandfather would sit and probably sing a composition, and this is how our talim or training would work. And he would sing and say, okay, Gudu, that's my nickname at home. He said, Gudu, okay, come on, play this composition for me. Gare ma gare sa sa. I lost my sa and I'm back again. Sa gare ma ga pa ma da pa 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 ma ga ma re ga re ma ga re sa. पिया की प्रीत मई को घरी पल छिन दिन बीत मई को आली री पिया की प्रीत मोपन सदिन घरी पल छिन दिन बीत मोपे आली री. And then he will do it twice or thrice. He'll keep repeating it unless I have figured out some kind of a way. And then he'll look at me and say, okay, your turn now. And I'll pick up my instrument in a very shy manner, and I'll be like, okay, I'll try, and I'll play. And then this would go on for like weeks, months, depending on what kind of a song or composition I'm learning from him. And then we will get into discussions. And probably this is how your own teacher, Amidji, has learned from his own guru, you know. This is how traditional talim has been taking place in India for centuries, you know. And the idea is, I mean, you're very lucky that Amidji allows you to take notes. You know, you should ask him. Our teachers, yes, we could have references, but we were never allowed to look at the paper and play. Amidji, am I right or am I wrong?
Yes, that's true. Uh,
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you one more question because I told
yeah,
you that tabla and there was so many musicians used to work in King's Court.
yes,
That's how,
yes, I'm getting there.
yeah, that's how the music and musicians' bread and butter was. So,
Yes.
so one of your family member was in working in the King's Court, and do you know anybody who you can tell us about?
Yes, well, we are related to a lineage called Rampur Sahaswan. And Rampur was a majestic court, you know, it had nawabs and rulers who were, excuse me, patrons of this great lineage. And one of my grandfather's very closely related cousin, Ustad Ahmed Jan Thirkwa Khan Sahab, who is a legendary name in tabla. Amidji knows about him very well,
I think
and
all
probably you
the
would be as well. He was appointed as a court musician in Rampur Court, and my own grandfather's uncle was also in Lucknow, appointed as a court musician, as a sarangi player. So, well, I was about to get there, but before that, I just wanted to let you guys know that how sarangi came into the realm of music. When I say realm of music, I mean, how did sarangi came into existence as an instrument which got started playing into the daily lives of people, into devotional music, into folk music, and then finally it kind of segued its way into court music. So sarangi, as I said, has many different versions. You know, it has versions in Rajasthan, Punjab, Gujarat, Kashmir, and also in Bengal and Nepal as well. So that kind of sarangi music was much different from what I just played to you. That was folk music, and this is how it sounded like. So these were these camel riders, you know, who would communicate while playing the sarangi on their sitting on their camels in their different caravans with music. And in the desert, their sound of the sarangis would travel miles and miles and miles away. Okay, and then the sarangi got started using in bhakti music. Wow, bhakti, devotional music. And then uh, we had songs like um, this Haveli Sangeet, which was written by this female mystic from Rajasthan, Mirabai. माझी मेरो मेरो मन मोयो सावरो मन मोए घर अंगना न सुहावे माँ मेरो मागी मेरो. Devotional music. And then finally, a time came when the Mughals, and Mughals is a great lineage, by the way. That is the lineage which gave us the great Taj Mahal. Do we know what Taj Mahal is? Right? Yeah. So what Mughals did, they started kind of initiating a lot of female dancers and composers and singers into their courts. And these female dancers and composers loved Sarangi sound. So they initiated Sarangi as their accompaniment instrument. And that's how Sarangi made its appearance into the courts. And it became one of the most importantly used accompaniment instrument. And here you can see there are actually two Sarangi players. Wow, two Sarangi players accompanying this very famous courtesan. This is how it came into courts. And then it became so popular that kings and nawabs and rajas and maharajas and Sindhya Raos and all sorts of these kingly figures started having sarangi in their courts. Yes, I've been seeing a lot of hands. Ask me questions. Amit bhai, can you point them? Otherwise, I'm only seeing the same people. So I want someone else who hasn't gotten a chance yet to speak.
Let me see. Yeah, Yagnesh, go ahead.
Is a sitar related to a sarangi?
Yes, very closely, and very good question. The reason is being both of them are stringed instruments. Although sarangi is stringed bowed instrument, sitar is only stringed instruments, and sarangi has even more strings than the sitar. You must have noticed that when I played it, there's a big sound chamber which is resonating. Did we notice that? If you notice that, raise your hand. It sounds like an orchestra is playing, right? How is that coming? Well, it's coming from these sympathetic strings, which are actually giving a really beautiful resonance to the instrument. So notice one more time. So the resonance is actually coming from the sympathetic strings. And just to show you a contrast, that if I mute them, this is how an instrument sounds like. And the difference is, my friends, day and night. You'll be surprised how different sarangi sounds without sympathetic strings. So to answer your question, yes, it is closely related to sitar, and if at all, this is a parent instrument to the sitar. It's a much older instrument than the sitar, and a bowed one. And so now I've actually inserted a cloth and kind of muted some of the strings, and notice how the sound kind of really differs. Okay, pay attention, and then we'll get into questions. So, what do you think? Yes. Amirji, just point them out, please, for me.
Amolji, go ahead.
All right, Yash has a question actually.
Okay.
In Sarangi, does it have like A sharp, G sharp, G, and those pitches?
Yes, it has all those pitches. I mean, it doesn't has them. You have to create them because unlike sitar, it doesn't has frets. So what you do is you tune all those A sharps, G sharp, B flat, E, F, whatever you're playing, and then you tune them in the sympathetic strings. The concept is like a piano. Have you seen a piano? Right? Piano has a lot of strings attached to the keys, right? And when you hit the key, the piano has a hammer-like device which hits the strings and then the sound comes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're correct. So just imagine a piano. However, instead of a hammer hitting the sympathetic strings, there's a bow working here, which gives it a very different kind of a sonicity. Yeah. Okay, who else? I'm loving this, by the way. You guys are great. What
Yeah,
an amazing group.
it is surprising. A lot of people want to ask you questions.
Yeah, go ahead. I'll try and answer as
We
much as I
can,
can.
and guys, we can answer him all the questions, but I'm choosing those guys who didn't ask questions. So because Anirudh asked a few questions. Ishan, go ahead. What is your question, Ishan?
Can you tune the Sarangi?
Yeah, you have to tune the sarangi. If you don't tune the sarangi, oh my God, it sounds really bad. You don't want to hear an untuned sarangi.
Can we hear it?
An untuned sarangi? No, I don't want to give you my thunder away. I want to sound
Aw.
good. I don't want to sound bad in front of you guys.
Guys, so we tune tabla, which is only one note, we tune. He has to tune all his strings.
Yes.
Very
And as I don't know if how much you can see, and I'll try and bring it as close as I can. I'll also give you a small little tour of what it's quite a complicated instrument. So you can see it has a lot of strings, right? And all these pegs. And very important thing, sarangi is an instrument which is inspired from the human body. And in fact, its different parts are named after body parts. So this is actually called the head. This is its mouth. These two bridges are literally called eyes or aankhe. This is sina, the chest. This is belly, the pate. And thank God it doesn't have legs. Otherwise, it'll be running around like you guys and I won't be able to catch it.
well, but they don't know what those sympathetic strings, which is hiding behind.
Yeah.
We can't see those properly.
Yeah, I think I'll have to come to you in person. So please pray that this COVID goes away and I can come and play for you in person.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. There are more questions. Arav, go ahead. What is your question, Arav?
How many strings are on a sarangi?
Right.
Very good question. I was waiting for that. It has 40 sympathetic strings, which are these, which I demonstrated. So you tune them and that's how the sound works. And 3 main strings, which you kind of play the melodies on. And they are divided into 3 octaves. So sa, sa, sa. That's the lower octave, middle octave, high octave, highest octave. No one goes that high. I'm just showing off. Who else?
So, yeah, Yuvan, what is your question, Yuvan?
What is the Sarangi made of?
Wow. What do you think? Any guess? You can see it, right? What does it look like to you? from here. What do you think it's made up of? Oh God.
Wood.
Wood, yes. In fact, it's one single piece of wood. There are no joints. There are never any joints in sarangi, and it's carved out by hand. And you know what? This particular sarangi I have. Can anyone take a wild guess how old this sarangi could be or must be? Any guesses? Tell me. Yeah, just unmute yourself. Anyone?
30 years ago.
You said 8 generations, so maybe like.
No, so I am 8 generation. Sarangi is not 8 generation.
Like 50 years?
Well, older than that.
100?
87.
Someone wrote 120. Well, it's exactly 125. Wow. It could be more, but that's the closest my sarangi repairer, or we call him as luthier in English, told me 125 years old. That's a long time, my God, right? Yeah, it's quite valuable, you know. I have a very expensive special flight case, which I got it made from London. And I travel with the flight case onto the aircraft because I can't afford to check it in. Yeah, very good question. Thank you. Anyone else?
Anyone else? Yes, there are a lot of people. Vishal, what is your question, Vishal?
Two things. What is the saranga? What is the sarangi's strings made of?
Very good question. So sympathetic strings are made up of steel. Okay. The main strings I am playing, don't get grossed out, are made up of goat intestine. It's called the gut. And these kind of strings have been used historically in many instruments. In fact, violin used to have gut strings as well. Harp still has gut strings. But what these gut strings do, they produce like this really beautiful soft sound, which the steel strings cannot. So the resonance that ring gut gives is not really achievable in steel strings, unfortunately.
Chaitanya, go ahead.
How often do you have to tune the sarangi?
Oh, quite often. It's almost like all the time because it's so sensitive. And with the New England weather, which is always changing, it's kind of a struggle to keep it in tune. So yeah, you have to just keep tuning it and it gets used to it. Yeah. Just like your tabla, you have to keep tuning your tabla as well, right? All the time?
Because we have goat skin on the tabla.
As well. Okay, good. I also have goat skin. So the belly is covered with goat skin. So I have goat skin. I have goat gut. I have horsetail hair on my bow as well, by the way.
Yeah. Aditya Tangela, go ahead.
So what is the main difference between the sarangi and the violin or other American stringed instruments?
There are quite a few. One being that violin doesn't have as many sympathetic strings. And the bow of the violin is very light. The technique is completely different. And one of the major technical differences that none of the violins or violas or cellos or upright bass or contrabass are played with your knuckles or your nails, which I should actually come near the camera and show it to you. So you can see my nails. Can you see my bumps on the nails? These guys? That's where I'm playing my instrument from. So I'm not really pressing down the string like how you're pressing down the tabla skin when you play the na or tete. right? I'm sliding them on my knuckles.
So guys,
Very good question.
think about he's sliding those knuckles on that string. So how much practice he need to get that perfect, that mark in that, so that the tar, the string which fits in those, what do you call, calluses, right?
Calluses, yeah.
Yeah, it's there are a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it's a time demanding instrument, and also if the technique is not right, you cannot work with the perfect intonation. It's not rocket science though. A lot of people have made sarangi into like, oh, you cannot master this. No, in fact, the technique I have from my grandfather, it's amazing that you can, in spite of being such a difficult instrument, you can play quite a few quick runs. So if you have the right technique, you can probably do anything on the instrument.
That's great. Any other person? Yes, Ram, go ahead if you have any question.
What's your favorite instrument to play with the sarangi?
Apart from sarangi, there's so many. It's hard to tell. I'm not trying to flatter you guys. I love the tabla. In fact, before sarangi, I picked up tabla, and I just love the repertoire. I love. I really like rhythm, and I like learning rhythmical compositions. In fact, when I got into Wesleyan and when I was a graduate student here, I also enrolled into a mridangam class, and I ended up learning a lot of South Indian mridangam compositions just to get the idea of how mathematical calculations and numbers work in South Indian rhythm. Yeah.
Basically, a lot of kids have a lot of questions.
Yeah, keep them coming as long as you have time.
Right. And if once we are up, time is up, then you guys can write the question and send it to me, and we can answer this. That's also fine. Okay, Akhil, go ahead.
Wait, me?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, wait. So it's like when you tune your strings, it's like you tune them to a specific note. As in, like, you could, like, assign each string to a note, kind of?
I do, yeah. So what I do is, it depends what string you're talking about. So if you're talking about the main string, they're kind of tuned to sa, pa, sa, or sa, pa, pa, depending on what kind of a mode you are. And then the sympathetic strings, you can tune to whatever raga you are tuning. So for example, this is sa, re, ga, ma, pa. So I'm in a kafi vibe here. Ga, re, sa, and then here, ga, re, sa, ni, da, pa. So I can choose a major and minor kind of combination.
Yeah, because also it kind of looks like how you tune a guitar or like a violin or a bass.
Yeah, you can tune sarangi quite high depending on the gauge of your string. Yes.
Okay, some of you guys, I think, asked the questions and forgot to lower your hand. So please do that if you are done with the question. And who else I see? Samarth, yeah, go ahead. What is your question? Interesting.
So, what's the back of the sarangi made of? The back.
Everything is wood except the strings and the belly, which is covered with skin. I mean, belly is also made up with wood, but it's covered with goat skin. It's a completely wooden instrument.
And I have a comment too. The sarangi strings might be made of silk.
No.
He already mentioned everything. You didn't listen? He already mentioned what is made out of, and every part he actually described. Uh, so listen, guys. There is a recording also. You will get this recording. You will listen to it. Another question, Nivan. Go ahead.
What kind of goods? What kind of wood is it made from?
Very good question. It's made up of a wood called tun. It's called tun in Hindi, but in English, I think it's called, what is it called? Mahogany. That's the closest version of tun you can find in America. Okay.
Great. Go ahead, Chaitanya.
What are all the other instruments you play sarangi with?
Unfortunately, not quite a lot. This takes most of my time. So I started learning a little bit of tabla, then moved to vocals because it's mandatory for sarangi players to learn vocal nuances. And as I said in the beginning of the class, most of the sarangi players apply vocal repertoire, which means vocal compositions. And in order to do that, you have to learn vocals first.
Yeah, I think the kids should know, Suhail bhai, that what is basically we have tal. They know tal, what it's made out of number of syllables. Now, can you talk about a little bit like one rag, and just show it to them that how it goes and what are the restrictions, and so that they know what is the difference in between tal and rag.
Okay, well, it would be very difficult to explain in one class. So I'll try to keep it as brief as possible. So let's take a rag called Yaman. Okay, has anyone heard of this rag called Yaman or Aman? Yeah. Okay. So it's an evening rag. Okay. Do we know that rags are assigned or designated to different time segments of the day? You have morning rag, afternoon rag, evening rag, just like you have morning meal, afternoon meal, evening meal, right? All right. And there is a significant amount of theory. There is a reason why these rags are assigned to different time segments of the day, because they have a significance in terms of its effect is more when you play to the assigned time. It sounds more beautiful and it works in that setting. For example, when you go and watch a performance, you don't watch a performance or a performer in the lobby, but you watch the performer on stage, right? Because it makes more sense to see the performer on stage. Correct? For example, you go to a classroom to study. You don't play football in your classroom. Correct? Yeah. Similarly, all rags more or less have a resonance to the nature. So coming back to Amitji's questions, there is this rag called Yaman, which goes like. You can say it in your own virtual space. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa. Repeat after me without unmuting yourself. 1, 2, 3, start. Sa re ga ma pa da ni sa. Okay, and then descending. Sa. Sa ni dha pa ma ga re sa. 7 notes. Rags are like people. They have personalities. They have features. And these personalities and features comes from how these notes are being assigned in their ascending or descending. For example, if I play that is not Yaman. It just doesn't sound right. It doesn't matches to what I just explained, right? Do you agree? Or if I play, that is not Yaman either. It's something else, but not Yaman. Do you guys agree? Yeah? So, in order to have Yaman sound like Yaman, I have to play. And all these Saregama Padhanisa, these notes I played, have specific characters, have specific terminologies, have specific names, have specific places, have specific sharps, flats, microtones, and how their approach in melodic structures, and all of these complicated things makes one rag. So without too overwhelming you with so much of information, I would say a rag is only a rag when you imbibe by the rules and regulations. For example, in Teen Tal, you have to play 16 beats, right? Can you play 17 in Teen Tal? Can anyone play 17 beats in Teen Tal? 12 beats, 13 beats in Teen Tal? No, we won't. It won't be Teen Tal, right? Similarly, you have to play the assigned notes in a rag in order to make it sound like a rag. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
There are a lot of questions coming. I don't know if you can take all of them. But
wow, these are a curious bunch, huh?
Yeah. Kea, you didn't ask any. Go ahead.
Hi, I just had a question. If you've ever accompanied a kathak, and if so, how do you go about learning the kathak compositions, or if you ever do sawal jawab, what's your experience been like?
Because Kea is a Kathak dancer and tabla player.
Oh, nice. Thank you for that fascinating question, Kea. Well, unlike tabla players, a sarangi player's job in a kathak is exactly like how your job would be accompanying a sarangi player or a sitar player. That is to say, when you are accompanying a melody player, you are keeping the rhythmic cycle for him or her, right? You're becoming the meter. Similarly, when you guys as kathak dancers or tabla players will improvise and present your own solo repertoire, I will present a melodic meter for you. So I will play a melodic meter like so this rhythmic meter for me would be called as a lehra or a naghma. So my job is to be very tight and kind of maintain the rhythmic meter or rhythmic cycle for you guys. On the other hand, you guys are flying on this palette I create for you. Yeah? Good.
All right. Lot of guys, you raised your hands on the Zoom, but I don't think you have any questions. Like Aditya, Om, I think you kept your hands on.
I had a question.
Who?
Me.
Who, me?
Who's me?
Om.
Om, go ahead. Ask question.
So for so for the instrument, can you play it without the bow?
Yeah, if I try to be experimental and fancy, so I can do. But that's the only thing I can do. I can't go beyond that. I have to kind of use my voice because it has a limitation. It cannot sound like a guitar.
Yeah.
Do you carry it in some type of case or
I do.
like a bag?
I do. I have this. Where is this? Yeah, this custom-made case which I got myself.
Nice.
Which is very beautiful. I really like it, and it's quite safe. And my sarangi is happy in it.
And also, what's your favorite thing to play on sarangi? Like,
oh, so many. Depends, you know. I like many ragas. You know, this rag I was working on. It's called Kedar. Beautiful rag. Kanha re nand nandana, Kanha re nand nandana, Param niranjan he dukh bhanjan, Kanha re nand nandana. So as I said, the rags are kind of, based around moods and emotions. It depends what mood and emotion I am in. It's a very emotional instrument, and I'm quite emotional as well in life.
Now I think there are a lot of questions. Guys, ask questions if it's related to playing or which has not been asked before. So ask those
Isn't this your dinner time?
Yes, it is dinner time.
Come on, guys, you have to eat, and I have to eat as well.
Yeah. Guys, what you should do, write down all the questions and send it to me, and then we'll talk about it.
No, and keep them, and then I come to you, and me and Amit Bhai will play a concert for you.
Right.
And then, you first ask all the questions to Amit Bhai, and Amit Bhai will filter them out to me, and then I'll eat my dinner, and then I'll answer your questions.
Exactly. I'll send you all the answers, guys. Whatever questions you have.
Okay, I'll take one last, and then we go. Someone who hasn't spoken at all yet, not even once.
I think.
Who's that person? Be honest. I want honesty. One person who hasn't even said a little bit of a word.
There are so many.
Who's that person?
Look at
really how many people are there in total? Oh my god!
There are 48 people right now. There were 53 people.
Oh, they have gone for dinner.
Okay, I think Ved didn't ask any question. Ved.
Okay, Ved, come on.
Well, I've heard this tune before.
Of course, it's very famous. And recently we had Janmashtami, right?
I've heard it many times.
Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Wait, you didn't have any question. Wait.
There's a comment.
It's a comment. Okay, it's fine.
Mihir, you have last.
I was gonna ask what your favorite rag is, but I think somebody already asked that.
Okay.
Yeah. It's hard to say. My favorite raga is. It's hard to say.
That was another Mihir which I didn't mention. Actually, Mihir Khire, go ahead.
Like when you play violin, you have to hold the bow in like a different way. Like, is that the same for Sarangi?
See, no, it's totally different. You hold the violin like upside down, right? Like
No,
this, and you play it
bow.
like this. I cannot play sarangi like that. I have to play sarangi upright like a cello, and that's how. And I sit upright with my back absolutely straight. It's actually a yoga pose. I'm sitting in Sukhasana. It's almost like yoga. You have to keep your lower back straight, shoulders spreading. My grandfather made me work quite hard on my posture. He was very strict, and we have to get the posture right.
I was talking about the bow, like when you hold it.
That is related to the posture. Unless until you have the right posture, you cannot sit like this and play it in this manner, and it's very different to violin.
Okay, somebody asking, can you please ask Suhail Bhai what is the biggest challenge he ever faced?
To answer your questions, there are so many. No. No, well, it's how can I answer that question? Well, right now I am researching. I'm writing almost like a 300 pages long book on the Sarangi, which is my dissertation. That is my biggest challenge right now. I'm having sleepless nights and God, like so much research work. It's quite a challenge. It's very hard. So pray for me that I get through it.
Yes, Suhail Bhai. I think we should conclude here. Suhail Bhai, you want to say something in the end? Whatever.
I just want to say thank you so much, Amit Bhai, for having me, and thank you guys for your inquisitive, highly interesting, and super exciting questions. In the end, I just like to say that you guys are very lucky that you have such an incredible teacher in the form of Amit ji, and you should take all the possible advantage of that opportunity. I mean, you have like a world-class tabla player sitting at such a close distance to you, which I hope is close enough. But he's amazing, and he's the reason why an artist like me has been brought to you, and we had such an amazing time over Zoom, right? So you should be very proud of your teacher, and you should thank him personally on my behalf as well.
Thank you so much, Suhail Bhai, for your time. Thank you for answering all the questions. There are so many questions I still see, but yeah, we'll keep it for next time, guys. And we will learn more about Sarangi, because this is just a start. This is not we haven't reached anywhere.
Yeah, no, we'll do it properly, and inshallah, when time comes, we'll do like a week-long camp or something, if time and resources allow us. Okay.
Sarangi and tabla is very close instrument.
Yeah.
They are very good friends. You know.
My not friends. My grandfather used to say that is the only marriage which works. Okay. All right. Namaskar to all of you. Keep me in your happy thoughts. And I'm so proud to see such amazing musicians. And some people have already started practicing. That's really, really heartwarming to see. Okay. Take care of you guys. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Wave to me.